Welcome to Queer Becomings Beyond Survival, the podcast where it gets better finally gets receipts. We sit down with brilliant, bold, beautifully queer humans who once found themselves stuck in a situation, a relationship, or a whole life chapter where they felt defeated. And then, through introspection, humility, courage, and action, they flip the script.
This podcast isn't about giving you advice or telling you what to do. It's a place where we ask the question, what does it look like to live beyond survival? We'll spotlight some of our most vulnerable and profound moments, the breakthroughs that took everything we had and reshaped our futures.
These are real queer people sharing real queer victories. So buckle up, hydrate, and prepare to laugh, cry, and blurt out, "You did what?" Because right here, we're not just surviving, we're becoming. Hey guys. In this episode, our guest and us hosts share some of our personal beliefs and transformational moments. These include experiences with religion and spiritual practices, coaching programs, books and media, and more. These are specific to the person who spoke about them and are not endorsed by this podcast. The intention of Queer Becomings Beyond Survival isn't to promote any one program, practice, or set of beliefs. It's simply to share the variety of incredible lives queer people are living. Purna Das, aka Joshua Rex, is an educator, mindfulness coach, and ritual artist with over 20 years of experience in trauma-informed and restorative practices. After navigating his own departure from a high-control religious environment and a complex family system, he developed transformational practices grounded in research and rooted in myth, embodiment, and community. He now supports individuals and organizations in creating spaces where healing and courageous reinvention are possible. All right, awesome. So just getting into it, Purna, I would love to learn more about how did you come out? What was the experience of leaving the cult? Like what was all of that like for you?
Yeah, thank you for framing that. After our conversation, I realized that stepping away from my family and leaving that cult, like they're together, they're kind of enmeshed. Especially for me, I grew up a fifth generation or fourth generation Pentecostal preacher's kid. And so from an early age, you're put in there that God loves you, God's this. How do I say this? Not only were we taught like you can't sleep with other people, but the very thought itself is a sin. And if you're thinking that and the trumpets blow, you're going to hell and not going to heaven. Just a small thought. I could have a holy, pure life, and that one little thought would keep me out of heaven. And so that fear in there, and that's everything. Like, so let me rewind even further. Kind of knew I was gay growing up, thought it was a sin, thought it would get out of the way. Maybe I'd find a girlfriend, dated a girl through high school, moved out at 17, and then failed miserably for a while, but kind of went through my life and tried to come out. And then when I moved back home, after being out around 19 or I think I was 20, I was out, and my family just made me homeless. They wouldn't let me live with them. Like they just, you're out on the streets. And so around that time, I was into like the rave scene and like that, and got involved in some drugs and got a felony. And sometime in jail, I was reading something, and I don't know, I had this moment. Some people would say it was God speaking to you, but now I just realize it's conditioning. That I really got that if I just followed the Bible, then life would be okay for me.
Mm.
And so I just kind of was like, all right, I guess I have to figure out how to not be gay and do this. And so then I went to a Christian rehab for drug addiction. And every time they talked about drugs, I was thinking about dick. And I've given up cigarettes, and they're totally different. Yeah, so like I went through all that, and when I left that, actually it was like 3 years in prison or 10 months at a Christian rehab. I'll take Christian rehab. And it was good. I think there was a lot of good stuff in there, and kind of pressing that down, couldn't talk to anybody. And when I left there, I had the opportunity to go, like my family started helping me again, like, oh, here's this, here's this. And there was a church my parents pastor in this small town, and it was just kind of sitting there. I had to do something different, and I knew that my life wasn't there. So I moved actually into the church, worked there for a few years, created a halfway house, did a bunch of stuff, and I'm just reading. I didn't listen to music, didn't like just completely blinders on everything, and I just drank the Kool-Aid. Um, and my life was good. I mean, things were great. Things were kind of getting out of there. I wasn't having to like worry about stuff. And I started to get into the different organizations were out there. I read every single book on the topic. And, maybe it was because my parents were divorced and my dad wasn't there. And I was in every group that was available and put the things on my computer to watch from porn or blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I was celibate for 8 years and and then people started to use me as the poster boy. And churches would invite me out to speak about stuff. And if you had the gay person, go talk to Joshua. And my whole time there, because God hadn't done anything to me, I was still like declaring it, speaking those things that be not as though they are, the scripture says. Which later on I'd be like, but you can call the sky purple all you want. You got to start speaking the truth. Um, but yeah, I started doing that, and I spoke at churches. I had everything in there. I tried to date a girl for a while. I remember my pastor one time says, "You need a girl like her. She'll straighten you out." It'd be like months or years later that I go, "Whoa, he really was trying to straighten me out," in there. But anyway, all that's going on. I'm learning about other stuff. I was dating a girl. I had to break up with her, and I finally had to tell her, I was like, "Dude, I'm still gay. I haven't figured this out, and I can't break your heart. Holding your hand does not feel great. That thought of kissing you isn't there, and I don't want to break your heart anymore." I was like, "But what if? What if God does?" Girl, you should go live your life and don't do what ifs. Uh, but anyway, all that's going on. I'm trying to like wrestle with myself, figure it out. And somewhere around then, I started to realize that maybe I'm just gay and I'm celibate. Like I'm not ex-gay. I live this life. Like I'm one of the eunuchs they talk about, like, or whatever. I always thought Paul was gay. When I read the scriptures, there's some moments where it has this thing that just afflicts him, that keeps him kind of humble, and we don't hear about him with anybody. And I'm like, maybe that's what's going on, and I'm trying to figure this out. Like maybe it's just, addicts live with something and they go on and live their life, and this is the thing I live with. And anyway, in that time, I was getting my degree in psychology. I actually started to go to like learn conversion therapy, and then I switched to a state university. Thank you for critical thinking. And I think around this time I took an evolutionary psychology class, and we had learned about penguins and how there are gay penguins. And how gay penguins, when other penguins have two eggs, because they can only hatch one at a time, gay penguin couples that mate for life will adopt the extra egg, hatch it as their own. But I called up my professor and I was like, "Can we have coffee?" And I share with him all this stuff. And I was like, "I'm gay. I've tried everything. I've tried conversion therapy. Like I've tried to look at psychology and books and blah, 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 and all of this in here. And I don't understand what's going on." And bless his heart, he's like, starts talking about left-handedness. And he said something that was really cool, was like, you have a genetic predisposition to be left-handed, and you can learn to write with your right hand, but you'll always be left-handed. You've just learned to do that. He goes, you could learn to be straight and get married and do all that, but your predisposition is to like men. I started learning about like, maybe you can be Christian and gay. There was like this third way group of people. And so they were reading the scriptures and being a little bit more critical. That year, about 4 children had committed suicide because of bullying for being gay. And at that moment in life, I'd already kind of accepted that I was gay and nothing was wrong with me. And that I wasn't breaking any laws or any sins. Like I was there, but it was like one of those things that I had to just keep to myself and hold in. Like I couldn't share that with anybody. And even though I was like kind of like assistant pastor at the time, I couldn't even share that out loud. Like it was just like, what if I lead people astray? And there's a lot of that thinking in there. And around that time, I was going to go actually to a conversion therapy weekend. And I got an email from a friend that had heard I was going. Maybe it was a Facebook message. uh, but he actually said, don't go. And he's like, I don't think you should go to that. And I just listened to him and I was really happy. And I'd already been around transformation work, but around that time, I had a friend that went through Coaching Academy with me, and he's like, hey, dude, you really need to do the Landmark Forum. And so I unregistered and registered the Landmark Forum that weekend,
Wow.
like sliding doors.
Wow. That's some
Um,
cosmic timing.
um, and so anyway, that those conversations, all these things are happening. I go to the Landmark Forum, day one's great. And then day two, we did the being powerful exercise. You're afraid of the people sitting next to you and the people sitting next to you. And then the whole room you're afraid of. And you're afraid of all them and the city and all the 8 billion, 7.5 billion people it was then. And then they're all afraid of you. So in that exercise, I started to realize that the one thing I wanted to share with people was that I'm struggling with this, accepting myself being gay, and I don't know who to talk to about it. And as they're sharing this, I'm realizing the reason why I don't want to share it is I might think my people in my church might get mad at me. Or what if I say something to someone and then they end up going to hell because they believe something that's wrong? And then how will I deal with that? And somewhere in there, I realized, I went, wait a second. This is one sect of Christianity. There's like 30 people in my town. Like there's other churches like hundreds or a couple hundreds like that. But like when I think about it, it's just that people, and there's so many more people. How is it that they got it right? And what if they're only policing me because they're afraid? And it was just like these clicks started to happen. Anyway, I'm laughing, crying, everything. And then I get up and I go to share with the next person next to me, and I couldn't even share it with them after the exercise because that fear was still there.
Hmm.
And we go through, we're supposed to have a break, share with someone. I get through the whole evening and it's still eating at me. And I finally go to the person sitting next to me and I'm like, hey, I've been holding this in and I need to share it. And I just shared everything. I was like, and I'm gay. I love God. I don't know what to do about this. I just feel like I need to like accept that and figure out how to walk with this. Like what is it like to be a gay person and be a Christian? And and he's like, great. He's like, well, who do you want to share this with? And I was like, I'm gonna call my pastor tonight. And so I call my pastor and I just share with him. I was like, I've been doing this ex-gay thing and that God can change you and blah, blah, blah. But we're going on 8 years or something now and nothing's happened. Like people with addiction are getting off meth and heroin, but I'm still liking men. Like I still have this attraction there, Reverend. He sits there and says, well, when I gave up smoking, and I'm like, you don't fucking get it. The freedom I got, I'd never experienced that in church. All that shame and everything like that, like all of that was gone. And I wanted to keep that purity, that feeling in there. I was one with the universe. Like it was profound. The next Friday or Saturday, and I'm like going to my boss saying, dude, I'm horrible at paperwork. I'm quitting at the end of the year. Like, and just freedom is happening left and right. Just, yeah, I'm glad you see that. You need to go do something different. And you're great at your work. You're horrible at paperwork. Got it. I would have a breakthrough in paperwork the next week and create like an amazing job. Like for our school, I worked at the university and we did like, student leadership conference. And the speaker, the main speaker of it, he was a gay man, had PTSD and like that, and really awesome, charismatic. And then he asked if he could do a private training for all of the student leaders that put on workshops. And he said a few things that day that made an impact for me. One was that he loved being with us because we allowed him to be 100% himself. And that in places where you get to be 100% yourself, he gives everything. And that's why he did this extra training for us. And he had a few other things in there. And one of the things that I walked away with, he goes, there's people in your life that don't allow you to do that. And you should schedule more time with those people that allow you to be 100% yourself and schedule the other people less. And so I started doing that. That's like my first starting to walk away. So I have all these conversations, and that next Sunday, this is the Sunday after Landmark Forum, I go to church and I think I was an usher that day. Like I was kind of in the back. I've already been like pulling back from some of my roles, but I was at the back of the church, kind of listening, watching the door, helping out. Something happened and the pastor said something about homosexual people. And he goes, and it's perverted, and kind of like looks over in my direction. Now, I understand, and later on when I went to talk to him about it, he's like, well, in the Bible, perverse means to twist it or blah, 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 blah. I was like, I know how you said it, but I've had this ex-gay ministry for so long that you've been behind until I've said this. And our big thing is let them get in the door, let them find a relationship with God, and let God sort that out. And every single person that I want to invite here, I don't feel safe with them here. And it started to just tear, like, and I was able to say these things. And anyway, somewhere around then, we're Pentecostal churches, so like we get a little in there if you've ever been to one. Um, at the end of the altar call where everybody's praying and speaking tongues, I'm having this like crying, yelling moment over in the corner. Now everybody else is doing their thing, and I'm just yelling at God, like, you piece of shit. I was like, this is horrible. I cannot do this anymore. I can't be here anymore. I can't do anything. Like this is it. I was like, I can't sit here. I can't be quiet. People are dying. People are everything. I was like, I need to go out and live my life and let other gay people know that God still loves you, that there's nothing wrong with you, that you are whole and complete, that everything's in there. And I can't sit here and be quiet about this anymore because I've secured in myself, but I can't do that anymore. And I have to go stand out there. And I'm just weeping. And one of my friends, she like walks over from the other kind and she just puts her hand on me and she goes, God wants you to take care of that thing that you're dealing with and you need to go do it. And he's behind you. She didn't know what I was praying over there, but that was enough.
Wow.
And during that time, I was doing a lot of writing. New novel November is like you write 50,000 word novel in the whole month. So Monday, I had to write 1,500 words a day, and I wrote this piece. It's called Life Behind the Mask. I really got that I didn't know if people liked me or the identity I'd be created to fit in the world. And that the mask got me through something, like my privilege, all that stuff, like helped me out so much. Like I'm there, I, I was like, I have to live that way. I don't know what it's like on the other side. I don't know what's there, but like my integrity matters. My name matters. Like who I am matters. And I can't live a life if I'm behind the mask. And so that writing happened. And then the next day, on the 6th of November, I was journaling again. It was actually Obama won the election that night, and everybody thinks that I came out because Obama got elected. No, I didn't even know he was getting elected as I was like doing my stuff in the computer lab at the university, just typing away. And I was coming to a place where I could just say it, and I wrote the words, "I am gay," and then I wrote a paragraph about what came up for me, and then I wrote, "I'm gay," and I wrote what was there for me. And I just kept doing that over and over again. And I got to the place where I could say it. And every night after I got writing, I would post on Facebook and tell my word limit and like my favorite line from the whole thing. And that night I wrote like 1,534 words. I'm gay. I love God. And I want to serve people. Bloop, 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 bloop. Messages started coming in. People from my past were so happy in there, everything in there. The next morning, sometime in that 24-hour period, I get a text from my pastor, "You selfish, blah, 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 blah. You're not welcome here anymore." We had a group chat for the whole church. They blackballed me because I was doing a training for the church. I was doing some consulting work. They canceled it. A bunch of money was supposed to come to my account. That was canceled. Like I was kicked out that day. And some people wanted me to like start my own church. And I was like, guys, I'm not doing that. This whole church group is just church splits. You get mad at someone and then you create a new church. And I was like, and you're going to do the same thing to me. You're all going to follow me off into some place. Then I'm going to say something you don't like. I just need to stop and take care of myself. Around that time, I started to like really get the decolonization or the deconstructing of my faith. I had a friend around that time who's a ex-pastor. He was part of my group that met on Sundays. He's like, do you ever just want to sit there in church and when some preacher's going off and everybody, amen, hallelujah. He says, you should just one day go, that's what you think. I think that's what I got the most is that I was told this is the world. And I believed it. It's like that Kurt Vonnegut quote. They told me my name was Bob, and I believed it. They told me the year was 1984, and they keep talking every day now. It just keeps going on, but we never question it. Yeah.
I saw it in what you were saying just now that that we believe what we're told, the way that we're raised, that everything about what we believe about ourselves, what we believe about the world, what we believe about God, what we believe about other human beings, that is something that we're told. And I think as queer people, we realize that. The moment when you realize that you're queer and you're not what you've been told for your entire life, there is a sense that like things are different than I've believed. Everything that I've been making things mean has something that I've been told, or it's something I've been telling myself.
Yeah, it's like this one thing that I thought was the case, I've realized isn't. What else do I believe that isn't true or may not be true? How do I like it? It's like it introduces like that sort of baseline level of skepticism into how we even see the world. It's so yeah, so good.
So,
Yeah.
what has been your journey when it comes to spirituality and feeling aligned with spirituality or practicing different kinds of spirituality? For one thing, like when did the transition happen from being a gay Christian to no gay something else to now to being involved in various kinds of spirituality?
That spring after I came out, I was still very spiritual, still lived that life. Like, I mean, I was a really devout type person. And I always knew I wanted to get in spirituality. From a very young age, I loved the mystic. I'd seen the dead rise. I've seen rattlesnake bites healed. I've seen lots of really cool stuff and experienced stuff. I went to sweat lodges, and what I liked about the Christian church is that same Pentecostal feeling was what I felt in the sweat lodge and what I felt in Kundalini, whether that's scientific or whatever, it's still mystical. It's really cool when you experience that. It's why I do this Beltane festival. The first time the May Royals walked by me, it was like I was in a Pentecostal church again. I was like, what is this? But that spring, I'd always do some type of devotional for Lent. That was one of the places where people didn't like me because like, we're not Catholic. Why are you doing Lent? I'm like, well, 40 days of practicing something, giving up something or doing something is worth it. And you can do a lot. I'd fast different things or take on a practice. And at that time I was really upset. And there was a group, Peter Rollins is his name. Pyrotheology is his like term. Burn up your theology and then see what exists. And he had this devotional, you have to pay for it now, called Atheism for Lent. And this is one of the few devotionals I did every fucking day. They just give you a bunch of atheistic writings, and it's a Christian just looking at atheism and looking at different spaces. And it got me to a place the last week, Holy Week. I was going to Boston for something, meeting up with that mentor again. I was going to be in the same town, so we weren't going to go out for coffee. And I'm on the metro from my airplane, getting onto downtown Boston, and I'm reading my thing, and there was just a moment of reading all these atheistic writings, getting away from my church, not having anything. And it said Holy Week or Holy Week. So HOLYWEEK or WHOLLYWEAK.
Mm.
And it says, if you are here now, you're probably the latter. You're empty. You don't know what God is. You don't know what faith is. You've only been told what your parents taught you, what your church taught you, what they taught you to believe about what those things say in the Bible. Every single thing you believe is because other people told you that's the truth. And this has been my wrestling for a while. I was like, why is it that Paul and Peter get to go change the mind of God? Moses fucking argues with them and gets to change God's mind. Why can't I go up to God and say, hey, God, let all the queers in? When did he stop being arguable with? Like when they wrote the book, like there was one of those things. But anyway, this thing hit me and it was like, whoa. And I get off the train, like I'm sharing this stuff with him because he was like one of my first queer friends that, like helped me out, kind of like a mentor. And um, he, I should call him after this. But I will call him after this. But after I share this with him, he goes, I know a group of ministers that all meet in private and they're all atheists.
Whoa.
And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, they like got to a place after studying the Bible like that, they really got to atheism. I was like, well, the more I'm studying it now, like even that no rapture theory, there's a scripture that says there's going to come a moment where you don't need Jesus because God will be all in all. And in Hinduism, it says it's all Brahman. There's just these little almonds, but we're supposed to get to this place of just one. And he says that and he starts talking about it. And it's just like those moments kind of got to me like, okay, well, what's this like? Like, what would it be like if I got to, like, there was a moment in there, like on my walk where you know, whether it's schizophrenia or talking to God, it was just like, I don't know who you are or what you are, or even if you are, but hey, if you're there, show me. Let's figure this out again. And let's do it again. So it was like a new walk. It was a new adventure to kind of get to see what God is. Atheism is at the beginning of it, like empty and meaningless. And then the other spiritualities are there, but really get you chose that context. And I think that's the part that I've gotten it. So fast forward, that next spring, I would graduate with my bachelor's in psychology, and then I would enter a master's in communication studies. Because I was like, maybe it's not the mind, maybe it is what we're talking about. And like coaching and like that whole world had like transformed me. Um, my thesis in my comm studies is the process that gay men go through when they're Christian and how to reconcile their faith, their sexuality. But going through that, it's been really cool to see those bits of it that you have to reconcile. And I think that's the part now where I'm at where, and it's kind of like what I try to help people with is that I'm an atheist at my core, but I believe in the power of faith.
Mm.
Like if you believe in something, you'll make it happen. For a while, I used to say I believe in love the way atheists believe in God. It's an amazing concept, but we made it up, and it's become vanity, just like God has. So I have a high standard for what love is, and so I like compassion a little bit more. In my master's in program in communication, one of my favorite theories is the coordinated management of meaning. And basically, it says that everything that you believe is true is all this meaning making machine that your brain does. And you only got that because you heard other people say stuff. And so you're just passing around the truth and trying to get people. And the more people you can believe in that, the better it gets. But as we start to get rid of that, like, whoa, whoa, what? It's like, what does this mean? And why do you believe that? You just accepted it, and then you keep going on from there. Um, those moments when I finally got that, I was told the world was supposed to be a certain way. And getting that there's 7.5 or 8 billion people on the planet, and not even 1% believes this. Why the fuck am I believing it?
Hmm.
Like I
Mhm.
haven't met enough people, and to do the critical work, I need to see all religions played out. And that's where I've kind of been. It's like, what are those things?
I super resonate with the more you learn. Yeah, like at least in my experience, the more I learned, that did help have me bottom out. Well, I don't know if that's the word. Whatever. I lost my faith. um,
Thank you.
I eventually I'm like, wait, like I had my own moment of where I realized I didn't actually have any justification for anything I believed, and I'm like, wait, what? And then like everything just fell away, and so I was like very staunchly atheist for a while, and then I've gone out on my own spiritual journey, and I think I can relate to also kind of being at the core atheist, but also like still engaging with the spiritual stuff, and like I don't know what's there. I don't know. I don't know if any of it can be explained by science, and I'm open to like what's there. I don't know, just your whole story is very cool. I'm so glad that I get to be with you and Alex in this conversation.
Thank you. I think
You
the
know what
other
this is
part
making
of,
me.
go ahead.
I was
Go
just gonna
ahead.
say, you know what this is making me think of? Regardless of a God that we may have grown up with or not, we come to believe in a God of our understanding that nobody's telling us what it is. And that was something that was coming to mind for me when you were sharing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think that's Dr. Jill Bolt Taylor talks about it in her Whole Brain Living book, that that right side of your brain is connected to the all of it. It has no language. It's empty. It's everything. It's taking it all in. And your left side comes in and organizes stuff. I'm actually studying for my teaching reading exam, and it says in there that reading and spelling is unnatural for the human brain. We have to
Mm,
put that in there, and then we tell people how to think and how to, like, we shape it as we're teaching language. Most schools and education systems started from Christianity, and Christianity robbed you of your home languages. And so, one of the things I really love is when you get to know language, it's there. And my first deity in there, all of it in the back of my head, that voice, that I want to follow that. You would think I'm super religious and spiritual all the time. Like I run pagan festivals and I do kirtans and all this type of stuff. And I love the access, whatever that is that we're getting, that space in between beloved and beloved. I was just sharing the other day at a kirtan, I actually was quoting scriptures. 'Cause I used to memorize the Bible, but the concepts still stay the same, And so I think like in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, it's really clear on that whether you're seeing angels or demons, remember that they're all a projection of your own mind,
mm,
Mm.
And so if your faith isn't working out anymore for you, get another coloring book.
mm.
And that's really a great place to be in. I almost joined Sikhs. I've been invited to go live on a Sikh farm, and I love the Guru Granth Sahib. I love their chants. I wouldn't even mind wearing a turban. I don't cut my hair except for a certain day of the year, but it's too culty for me. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't. Once you tell me how I have to dress every day, I'm not doing it. I'm currently following a Dionysian path, and I wrestle with it a lot. And I just read some texts of Dionysus that just didn't sit with my view of him. And it took me, I was like, I threw the book on the ground in like 4 months. I was like, I'm not doing that. And then I came back and was like, oh, okay, I get it. We all have faults. Um, even gods. That next I think it was the next summer. Buddhism and meditation really got into my life around the time I got my yoga training. I'd done Reiki back in the day, so I did a Reiki workshop, like all the things I wasn't allowed to do in church. But I was still like kind of there doing them. Like my access to prayer was similar to Reiki, and I remember I chanted Namyo Renge Kyo when I was like 12. I watched the Tina Turner movie, and so it was in the back of my head. And I think there was one day I was so mad, and that chant just came to the back of my head. And I started saying it. If you think language is confusing, the language of time and how different cultures have time in there and how much it fucks with the way our brain processes stuff. There are cultures that because of they have a better relationship to time, landmark doesn't work for us.
There's actually a
And
Mm.
tribe that doesn't have language for the past or future. They live so exclusively in the day to day. They just don't. They just don't.
and it's powerful.
It's like, yeah, like
Wow.
literally the nature of their language actually breaks the fundamental understandings people had of human language. Because there's a lot of other stuff. They don't have words for color or numbers either. I believe it's the Paraha in the Amazon. Yeah, they're really, really cool. And they've never been converted to Christianity because every time someone comes in, they have there's like a suffix, I think, to when they talk that is literally for where you got your information. It's built into their language to cite your sources. And so they're like, so it's like you've seen it, you know someone who saw it, or you deduced it from like the environment, whatever. And so they're like, okay, this Jesus guy, okay, like does he like to go hunting? Does he like what's he do? What's he look like? Is he brown like us? Like what? And they're like, I don't know. I've never met him. They're like, oh, so your dad must have met him. No. And it just goes so far back. They're like, why are you even telling us this? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, people have been trying for like 2 centuries, and they're like, yeah, no, we're good. They're also not afraid of death. So it's like,
Yeah.
they're amazing. I don't know. It's really cool.
Wow.
Yeah. And the more I get into more Buddhist texts, like really deep ones, it's all present.
Yep.
The more I steep myself in languages like that and practices like that, like the mind space is so much easier to be with. And as a coach, like being at clearing, especially for my middle school students and like that, just to be able to have that space is really fun. And it's why they put me in charge of discipline in our middle school, because I can just bring in the meaningless to everything. It's like,
Mm.
if you stop talking about shit the way you're talking about it, it disappear. In my business, Nothing Created, I have a workshop I developed, actually for teenagers, where we disappear problems. And it's actually uses cards and pictures. I even do tarot readings on it now. But there's a moment where I just wipe it all away, and they get nothing, and they're like, "Oh, well, I can do anything." And it doesn't sustain. Like the landmark form helps that sustain for you. But in that moment, when people get it, it's like, whoa. I've been keeping
Mhm.
that whole story alive. But even during that time, Buddhism saved my life. I wanted to go to Nepal or Tibet, actually, but Tibet's harder. And I want to go to Nepal and just be back around Buddhist people. And I found a program, went for like 3 months, taught English, and just spent time and got reconnected with a friend that put me on these spiritual paths when I was like 19. Back when I was coming out, this guy, I'll refer to him as my guru. He died in 2016. But that path kind of like opened me up to like the all of it, And so seeing spiritual truths and everything, over the years, it's been like, I can see it. And now I'm actually more of a place where I can be around some Christians. It works as it works for you. Christianity, all of that helped me out. I've learned how to manage finances, do everything. Now I've learned church tax law, and now ways they do tax sheltering stuff, and now I help pagans create their own stuff and what language needs to happen for land sanctuaries and queer sanctuaries. And I'm like, they created it to help them. Let me give you the keys to the kingdom.
I think it's really cool to have the part of the story where, like, while you were still Christian, being able to like get solid with being gay and want to make a difference with other gay people.
Yeah, and I also think the other thing too, that I've been since our conversation, I was rewriting some chapters of my book, and really getting with the processes I went through. And um, one of the things I really got was community. I think that's one of the biggest pieces, that I would not be here without community. And the entire time I was leaving my church, I was building a community of people that had my back. My coaching community, the landmark community, these other ex-gay people that were like, well, I'm going to this other thing now, and they're saying this, and so like having all that, and actually now when I help people come out, because I've run a group for men, we're actually gone dormant in the last few years. I think when I came out as Buddhist, we kind of like gone our ways. A lot of people have lost their faith. Like only maybe 3 or 4 of them are there, but there's like 60 of us. But 3 or 4 have really kept their faith. But anytime we had new people and I would do consulting with them, I'd be like, what's your community? Like, who do you have to fall back on? Who's the couch you're going to go sleep on when they pull your scholarship away? Who's the people that are going to be there for you? If I could go back, I'm glad I was just a fool and did what I did. And it worked out great. But if I were to go back, I probably would have been more strategic about coming out. Actually, I'm glad I didn't do it that way. But it is good to know that you have community. I think that's a big piece to have. And I'm so grateful that Landmark had a community.
You went on this journey and inquiry of accepting and understanding yourself as a gay man and getting solid with that, and that it's not in conflict with God. You mentioned sort of this need to go out there and let the other gay people know that it's okay, God loves you. And there was this journey from like self-acceptance, self-understanding and acceptance, to then also wanting to branch out and give that gift to other people. I think there's something really beautiful there. It sounds like you were able to deconstruct or to at least navigate it in a way that you didn't feel like you had to throw away your faith in order to accept yourself. That can come up in the queer community, and I think that can be an important part of your journey for people to hear.
Hey, you're back with your hosts, Alex
Elliot.
and Allison.
Thanks for joining us for this episode.
If you have follow-up questions or something you want us to explore in future episodes, feel free to email us at contact@queerbecomings.com or DM us on Instagram at queerbecomings.
If something inspired you in today's podcast, we invite you to follow it. Go find out what's possible beyond surviving. That risk might be worth it. That conversation you're scared to have might not turn out the way you thought.
Yeah, who knows? Just try taking a new action and see what happens. Or maybe just ask yourself, where could I give myself a little space to dream?